We're now streaming live.
Beautiful. Hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. We're now streaming live. Oh dear.
Beautiful. Hello, Happy New Year.
There we go.
Yeah, we don't need the live feedback. No one wants to hear their own voice back.
No, they don't. I'm just going to share this into Elizabeth's group. Give me 2 seconds. A minute of light. Cool. Hi, Asha. Happy New Year.
Happy New
And
Year.
Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas. And Merry Christmas to soul friends, soul family, women of light. Happy New Year.
Everybody, all the soulies.
Yeah. It's really nice to be back.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is 2022, hey?
Yeah. Kicked off. Does everyone else feel as ready for it as we do?
Oh, so ready?
Well, I'm so ready. I'm so on top of it.
Yeah, same. All over it.
Yeah, all over it. I'm sure we're not the only ones feeling like that it's here already.
Yeah, absolutely. And so today we're going to talk about, well, even when I say, I'll say it and you can see my body.
Yeah.
New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, exactly. And I think everyone has some version of that, this kind of expectation of new year, what's going to be different, what are we going to try and achieve this year? And then also that residual of how many times have people made New Year's resolutions and they fall over within the first month and nothing actually changes, and oftentimes it's the same list on repeat. Yeah.
I'm gonna have a strong body and I'm gonna lose 5 kilos and I'm gonna what else?
Stop smoking, stop drinking, stop.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna stop drinking champagne.
No, I'm not. Let's be real. No, I'm not. Yeah, so but we'd love some feedback as well in terms of what others' experiences of New Year's resolutions are, and also what we can. So Nicolette and I are going to share some of our philosophies on how to actually make the difference. So it's not just a list that is on repeat, and come February, not much has changed. So for you, Nicolette, what would you say is some of the main pitfalls people fall into with setting New Year's resolutions and then inevitably not following through?
Well, I think that I know from my own experience, when I set a bunch of goals and expect to make overnight changes just because it's the 1st of January, we can get really excited about what we want to achieve, but then how we actually operate day to day like falls in on the 2nd of January. So in my experience, rather than have a long list of New Year's resolution goals, I rather take the tack of making small changes every day with an overall intention, or aligned action steps with an overall, like, overarching long-term intention in mind. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not a list writer at all, but I know what I want to achieve in my relationships, in my business, in my and I think that most people know that, but they fall into a cycle of writing the big list, setting the big goals, and then failing because how their daily life and how they function in their daily life takes over the habitual way of being. And then it's like, oh, well, I haven't achieved all of the things I set out to do, so stuff it. What's the point? Is that like, yeah.
And then it reinforces the story of who I am and who I am not, you know, and I think that's really important. And I think, you know, with what you've said there, a key difference that I find is, do people have an overarching vision that they're pulled towards, that creates momentum for the micro changes, for sustained change? And I think that's something that, you know, when we've been in the personal development space for so long, we can kind of take for granted a little bit that people have conscious awareness of what they do want their highest life to look like. Because a lot of people, you know, typically are in the groove. And where Corona has actually served is that it's created a significant, what we call behavioral chain break. So because everything happens in habitual cycles, from thoughts to feelings to behavior, thoughts to feelings to behavior, thoughts to feelings, behavior, and there's underlying core beliefs that sustain those cycles, we're often just running that out. And until you have a behavioral chain break, which is something that significantly disrupts the status quo, you don't kind of get shaken out of that cycle enough to go, well, hang about, is this actually serving me or is it not? So as much as we all kind of poke fun at the idea of January 1 coming around and suddenly things being different, of course it's not going to be different unless we make it different. However, what it does do is serves as a potential behavioral chain break, because there's new energy around and because there's discussions about, well, what's this year going to look like? What's it going to entail? And what do I desire it to look like? And what desires do I have for it to be different? And then how do I start cultivating the appropriate energy within to make that happen?
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. Like it's very easy to kind of be very dismissive of it and go, well, what's going to change? But the fact that we've now got a catalyst of potential change, that's worth tapping into.
And I think what causes the catalyst also is that people get into a state of reflection over the past year, and you know, they start to reach out to people who have impacted their life over the past year significantly, or like they start to be in the gratitude space of what have I learned and how do I want to take those learnings forward. So that then serves for the platform of, oh, okay, well, I might sit down and do some journaling and work out what I actually want.
Exactly. And you know, just a really simple technique to start getting clear on that vision, because like I said, I think it's very easy when we've been in this space and we're surrounded by other people that are mission and vision driven, to kind of have a baseline acceptance of, oh, well, people know what they want. But very often people don't know what they want. They don't know what their ideals are until they take the time to sit down and journal and go, okay, well, if I look at my relationships, what do I ideally want my relationships to look and feel like? What relationships energize me versus what relationships do I ultimately feel de-energized by? And actually start teasing apart some of the things of what works for me and how do I create more of that, and what isn't working for me, and how, and the self-permission process of letting that go. And you know, the other thing is that people often assume that moving towards desired outcomes feels good. And very often it doesn't.
Well, because moving towards a desired outcome means letting go of a part of yourself, which means grieving, which means feeling really, really uncomfortable and unstabilized, because that has to happen to re-establish where you're headed and be on the new path to your desired outcomes. Like it doesn't happen without the cyclone.
Exactly. Yeah. Without the micro mini deaths and mini rebirths all the time. Like we're constantly letting go, grieving, becoming, letting go, grieving, becoming. And so it's the anticipation that that's what growth or progress looks and feels like. Because often what happens as soon as we hit that inner resistance or those uncomfortable feelings from creating change, the easiness and familiarity of the known, of the status quo that came before, like, oh, I'm feeling this emotion, that's right, what do? I go and eat cheesecake. That's that status quo, the gravity of that status quo is so much more comfortable to the nervous system than going, oh, not only am I now encountering emotional discomfort, I'm now encountering something new, and new at a nervous system level is encountered as often danger, threat. So of course I'm going to revert back to what's known. And it's kind of knowing that in advance to go, okay, not only when I encounter emotional discomfort, it's when I'm starting to engage in the unknown that's when you're actually creating a new reality. You don't create anything new without unknown. So one of my insights from last year, and I'd love if we could just cover a few of our insights that we garnered from last year and what our own growth journey has looked like, because I think sometimes it just also helps propel other people's realizations forward as well, you know, to really amass, well, how am I different? And like you said, now how am I going to use how I am different and take that forward? One of the realizations that I had is that if there's not an area of your life that you genuinely don't know how it's going to turn out, then you are living in the past. You are only on repeat. So the way that you know that you're creating new for yourself is that there is an area of your life that you genuinely don't know how it's going to turn out. And then it's about opening up and embracing that and go, that's actually terrifying and exciting. And I choose to use the energy that generates in a positive momentum and attach positive meaning to it to enable me to move through the discomfort of, oh, wow, this is new and unknown, and it's easier to revert back, but I'm going to keep going anyway.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm muting myself when the noisy boats go past, so that's why I'm in and out. Yeah. So will we share? I'll share one of my biggest realizations about myself last year. Last year sounds weird to say that. Is that I will focus on my tendency, or my default is to focus on other people's. I'm trying to put my face in the sun as well so you can see me. My tendency is to focus on other people's journey or other people's healing or other people's up leveling to distract myself from my own. And I make myself responsible for the journey of others, the smooth journey of others, and comfortable, and so a lot of my energy is caught up when I'm in that, a lot of my energy is caught up in a support role, ignoring my own dreams, my own needs. Yeah, and literally not rocking the boat takes a lot of my energy and focus. So my biggest, if you want to call it a resolution, intent, I call it an intention. My strongest intention for this year is to stay or keep reconnecting and coming back to myself and being centered in my wants, needs, and desires. Of course, I'm always going to be respectful of others, but keeping on reminding myself that by distracting myself with other people's needs, it's not actually doing them any favors, because it's I cushion them from their own lessons or yeah. So that's been my biggest realization from last year. So I encourage everyone to really be honest with yourself about how you operate day to day and with the people around you, because yeah, it really is the time now to be brutally honest with yourself, and you can tell that that's a big thing for me to admit, that realization. So
Absolutely. And look, I completely agree. And I have absolutely been, you know, uh, had that pattern as well. And for me, what I realized is that when we define ourselves as compassionate or kind or healers or you know, whatever it is, whatever that self definition is, that means we have a natural propensity to hold others, and also we're highly rewarded for that as well, to go, okay, because other people then um are grateful for that. um and from a societal perspective, we're encouraged to do that, to be nurturing, to be supportive. It's often in the divine feminine that we're kind of holding that. And then, like you said, whenever we're doing more than our half, we're undercutting their own self-efficacy to meet us halfway. And that is comes down to a very clear reflection point of going, well, where's my 50%? Because if we've got two people, you know, that, and there's 100% between us, it's common knowledge that we want to meet 50-50. But humans are incredibly bad at allowing a space to exist. So what will often happen, particularly with you and I, with you know, and this isn't coming from a place of ego, it just simply is, with a high emotional intelligence and a high skill set to scaffold people through their own learnings. What happens is, if someone meets as under and this person over here has a lot of capacity, they will naturally step into the space and go, I will fill this gap for you, so there's no longer a gap. And one of the toughest learnings, oh no, is to go, okay, I'm recognizing that there is a gap, and allowing that person to then meet us where we are in holding space. But also energetically, what we want to do is send out the message that I inherently trust you to be able to meet me where I am at 50%. And that then comes down to not only our belief systems about self, but our belief systems about others and their inherent ability to do their own inner work to meet whatever the circumstance is where they need to. And so that's its own level of expansion.
I've, I've just moved so that we don't have all the boats coming in behind me.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. We, it's uncomfortable. The gap is uncomfortable, right?
Mm.
It's like when you're in conversation, um, when you're in conversation with someone and there's an awkward silence and someone, you know, I will always fill the gap so that the other person doesn't feel, or the other people don't feel uncomfortable. What's so bad about sitting in an uncomfortable silence?
Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
programmed, and I'm sure a lot of people um, can relate to this, to make everyone around you feel comfortable and make it your responsibility, you know. And some people do it with food. Some people are feeders, like, are you hungry? Are you hungry? Do you want a cup of tea? Like, can I make you more comfortable? Well, actually, they can probably get their own, you know.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's starting to in terms of really making change and meaningful change that then scaffolds us up to move towards our highest vision and mission. It's about not only what am I doing or not doing, it's about what part of my self identity is that related to.
Mm.
Because once you can identify that, and any trait, any part of your identity will be a double-edged sword. So compassion, double-edged sword, because we do often hold others at the cost of ourselves. So then if compassion's a double-edged sword, so is obviously being so driven and so individualistic in mentality that yes, you might be securing goals, but it will often come at isolation and loneliness and cost of relationships. So when you take into account that everything has an equal and opposite, where am I naturally, or where are my self definitions on those continuums? And then how is that working for me or against me? And now I choose to wield that sword intentionally, like you say, because intention is everything. So I can be compassionate and hold space for others' journey without doing more than what serves us both.
Mm.
Yeah, and that is all a calibration and a recalibration, but it's done with conscious intention and awareness of how are my dispositions playing out, and how have they gotten me to this exact point? How have they served me? And now how are they cutting me? So I can now go into this chapter going, okay, I have this. And now how do I mindfully use my greatest assets without it becoming my greatest vice or Achilles heel?
I think compassion is a really great one to talk about, because, as an example, because if we're showing compassion to someone, there's a certain amount of energy that we get from that service of the other person. So that energy that we get back can cloud where we're actually at energetically, and
Yes.
can mean that we will give and give and give, and then all of a sudden you look behind you and there's you've got nothing left for yourself, because you've given all of that out, but you weren't actually aware, because there was this false sense of being.
Achievement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's such a good point, because there's two ways that our reward system gets lit up, the dopamine centers in our brain. And one is this kind of satiation mechanism where, so to go a little bit scientific for people, just for 2 seconds, is between two neurons is a gap called a synapse. And with our reward centers, it's the release of dopamine into that gap that gives us that heightened, elevated, warm state. And then though the dopamine within the gap gets reabsorbed by the neurons. And it's when that goes into deficit that's when we get hungry for our next hit. And even if that is how do I connect with others in a meaningful way, that will give you a dopamine hit. And then when that goes into deficit, we will be looking for our next hit. So that's the satiation model of reward. However, what I heard you just saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if we get into that feedback loop of being in service, getting feedback back, we're actually just maintaining that dopamine satiation reward mechanism without the intentionality of having a higher order vision that we are systematically moving towards whilst we are getting our reward mechanism met in meaningful ways through it being satiated. But we also need to couple it with progress and meaningful progress in our desired domains, because otherwise we've just got a high level mechanism for being on repeat. And relationships, meaningful connections where we get that hit are one of the most alluring and deceiving ways of getting that dopamine hit, with the idea that we've made progress. And in some respects we have, because meaningful relationships are absolutely key to fulfillment, vitality, and sustainability. It just can't come at the cost of desired progressed action. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I feel that, and this loops back to our, resolutions or long-term intentions. If you have a long-term intention for something and you're feeling like you want to carry out the same behaviors because you need that dopamine hit again in the same way that you got it yesterday, coming back to the long-term intention in your mind and body will allow you to go through a bit of withdrawal at the time, knowing that fulfillment is coming, because the intention is strong. And I don't know if anyone out there realizes how strong their intention actually is. When you have a really, really firm, strong belief and intention for something, it may not happen the way that you see or visualize it happening now, or even with the people that you're with now, or at the place that you think that it's going to eventuate, but the feeling that you're going to feel when you have reached that point of intention, it will happen, because your belief system will lead you there. You've got these little receptors that will tell you which steps to take to get there. And knowing that means that, short-term pain means long-term gain.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the more like spiritual or high conscious trapped is kind of this idea that, well, if I'm enlightened then I won't encounter pain points, or like I can somehow like bypass this idea of pain equals gain. And I think it's the spiritual or the enlightenment version of that is to recognize the difference between physical pain that we're geared to evolutionarily avoid, emotional pain. So what am I coming into contact with that's causing discomfort? What old belief system? Is there an old wound that needs healing? And doing that inner work. And then also, is it spiritual pain? Is there some kind of disconnect that's causing me to feel isolated or alone or not in flow. And it's about recognizing that being in flow, we will still encounter our own inner work that needs to be done at the time. And it's gracefully moving through the inner work rather than being in resistance to the inner work. And that's the key difference. So pain will always equal, if done with the right intention, embraced, done at the time that it actually arises. So because that's in a sense a divine timing where it will serve you. If you can address that inner pain as it arises,
Yeah.
then that's actually the quickest way forward.
Yeah.
And it's coming up at that time. So the next time you encounter similar stimuli that's necessary to get where you want to go, you've already done it. So that time it's going to move through and be graceful and effortless, provided we do it as it arises the first time.
Yeah, and little bits. That's what I was saying about, small changes every day, but more, and also small healings every day. Because if you put your nervous system through um, complete upside down change all at once, then it's just going to revert back into what's safe. And
Mm-hmm.
um, but as you said, as it arises and you take the steps forward to where you want to go, and you sit with how you're feeling, and you be kind to yourself and compassionate to yourself first, that then builds a building block for you to move on to the next step and the next step with that long-term intention that you're moving towards. um, yeah, so go easy on yourselves um, in the process, because it is a step by step when you're making
Yeah.
changes towards where you want to go.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
difficult for our poor little bodies to adjust.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing to be mindful of, because I know we'll have to wrap up soon, is through that progress journey. If we look at essentially models of behavioral change, if we've got a behavior on the y-axis and time on the x-axis, and our behaviors start coming down, so whether it be you're reducing smoking, reducing drinking, reducing takeaway food or whatever, you will come down to a certain amount, and then you'll get what we call an extinction spike, which is when the behavior will shoot back up quite quickly. And then the key is, so anticipation is everything. So you anticipate the behavioral spike, but then you don't reinforce it, because if you reinforce it, then that's when we go back to the status quo, and it's like, oh, this is known, this is way more comfortable. So the key is to anticipate, yes, I'm going to get a behavioral extinction spike where all of my nervous system goes, hang on, this isn't the way we do life. We do life like this. It's about not feeding it there, and then it will drop back down lower than when it came pretty well just as quickly, provided you don't feed it at that point. And then you'll come down a bit further, you'll get another little behavioral spike, then you don't reinforce it there, and then that's when we come into the more extinction phase of a new. But we have to anticipate those spikes, not reinforce them then, and just go, yep, that's the way that my nervous system has been trained to behave. And then I let go of that and go, cool. And actually, if you can reframe it as knowing, okay, I'm meeting my marks of being on the trajectory to extinction, brilliant. Because now they mean something in a positive way, where I'm actually tracking progress of going, my system is now registering difference. It's reminding me, and now I just continue on my path.
Yeah, yeah, that's a beautiful framework that only Asha could do. Out of these two people, anyway.
Not at all. Where one ends off, the other one picks up, and it's vice versa.
Yeah, exactly right. And what came to me at the end there was that extinction point of of releasing yourself of things that no longer serve you, that's the point of that long-term intention that I was talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a ride, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And then back to your point of being gentle and compassionate, of going, oh yeah, this ride can feel all sorts of ways, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm fundamentally okay.
Okay. I'm okay.
I'm okay. Still got my hands on the wheel. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
Well,
Beautiful.
Happy New Year, everyone. I
Yeah.
think
Happy New
we're
Year.
back with Elizabeth next week.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
from memory. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that will be lovely. And I know that she's been doing some beautiful replays of old spiritual bites in her group as well.
Mm.
But we just thought we would jump in and
Yeah. Say hello. Happy
hello.
New Year.
Mm,
Yeah. Connect in. But yeah, if people are still on holidays, I hope you're having a beautiful time. If you're back into it, I hope you're having a beautiful time. You know, so, but yeah, we will continue to yeah, be to check in and yeah, be in your corner in whatever way we possibly can.
absolutely. Cool. Sending much love to everyone.
Bye
Mwah.
for now.
Bye.